Okay, welcome to another replay here. If protractors and overly attractive men are your thing, then boy, do I have the battle for you. Over here is my forces. I'm playing the Empire in this matchup, and then I'm accompanying me in the chaos is Vippa, and on the far side we've got Time Lord playing the High Elves and Justice playing also the Empire. So coming into this match, I knew I was playing another Empire opponent, and I figured it was going to probably turn into an artillery duel. So if we look at my army really quickly here, I'll show you. I brought 3 cannons, and I brought the Warrior Priest to buff those cannons. The Warrior Priest has access to an ability called, I'll just highlight it here, Shield of Faith, plus 22 damage resistance, and also he has access to this Flaming Banner ability. I'm going to show you that as well. Banner of Eternal Flame. So basically, if you stand in the middle of your 3 artillery pieces, you give them plus 6 weapon damage, you give them fire damage, and you give them 22% damage resistance. So I figured that was going to come in handy if it came down to an artillery duel. And it certainly did. Then, Justice not to be outdone, he did bring a few cannons of his own. He brought the Hammer of the Witches and the Great Cannon. So I think I did well to pick 3 cannons so that I could probably outtrade the 2 cannons of Justice. He brought 1 unit of Demigriff Knights and the typical Franz with the Jade Wizard. He didn't bring his Light Wizard this time, which I've often seen him do. So that was a bit of an interesting play. Time Lord, he's got just some Illyrian Reavers, Spearmen, 3 units of Archers, a couple White Lions, and 2 Flamespire Phoenix. And he brought the High Mage on the Chariot, which is kind of cool because you don't see that very often. Vippa, he's got the Summoners of Rage, and then 2 units of Chaos Trolls that are armored. He's got some Chosen with Halberds, Chaos Marauders, Marauder Horsemaster, and then the coolest thing of all, Death Sorcerer, and Prince Svigald, the overly attractive and slightly awkward guy. So, and me, I've got Balthazar Gelt, Empire Captain, plus the Warrior Priest I showed you already. Just to go over the map really quickly here, I mean, this map is distinctive because it has this one big crest here, right? And it overlooks the entire battlefield. But underneath the crest is sort of a dead zone where you have no line of sight. So if you do put artillery up here, you can't shoot down on this like dead spot. And the other thing too is I figured my opponents would assume that I would deploy all of my artillery here, and then they would position around it and try and attack me through the rear, or there would be very short distance for me to actually fire the artillery because the infantry can just rush up the hill. And yes, this is a choke point, but if they break through the choke point, they'd be right onto the artillery, and it would be too short of a distance really to shoot in on the infantry here. And if I deployed the artillery back here, I mean, that's an option too, but then I still have a pretty short firing window. So I was like, you know what, let's concede the hill. I'm going to just give it to them. And instead, I decided to deploy over here on the low ground, and shoot up basically at whatever was going to come at me. And Vippa did the same. He deployed his 2 hell cannons down here with me, so that was cool. So I'm gonna run into like just hitting the play button here, and I'm not gonna. I mean, it's a pretty long battle, very very close fight. So I will fast forward at parts here just so that we can keep on the edge of our seat here. Alarielle the Radiant from Time Lord is just, positioning. He's got the High Mage just scouting out the woods and I guess trying to hide in the tree cover maybe. It is a large target, so I think I should be able to see it anyways. Yeah, so he's not hidden, but maybe he's just scouting things out. Marauder Horsemasters taking some pot shots at the Illyrian Reavers. The Horsemasters are fast enough that they can kind of keep out of reach of those Illyrian Reavers, so not a bad initial play there by Vippa. So here comes the initial posturing. The High Elves, the Empire, decide to spread out up here on the hill. They bring forward the 2 great cannons. Well, one is the Hammer of the Witches, and then there's the other regular great cannon. And then I also bring over my my artillery pieces here. And I think originally he was trying to snipe the hell cannons because they have larger range. But then when Justice saw me bringing over my cannons, he realized it was a 3-on-2, and it was probably not going to trade well for him. But yeah, so for the deployment of my cannons, I try and spread them out so that missed shots aren't going to hit more than one cannon, but I still wanted to keep them pretty tight because, again, I wanted to pop that Shield of Faith and make sure all of those artillery pieces were getting those buffs. The Hell Cannons moved up pretty close too, so they were also getting the buffs from the Warrior Priest. I think Justice's artillery pieces were a little bit clustered here, if you can see. Because of that, even if I missed one cannon, I was sort of getting double payoff. It was double damage here. I was hitting 2 cannons with every shot, right? So that was I was pretty happy about that situation. But the balance bar is still very even, and even though I was able to sort of knock those cannons out, I mean, it didn't make much of a difference on the balance bar, surprisingly. The Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower, trying to help out, he came in a little bit late, like the 2 cannons were fighting and then the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower positioned, so maybe if it was there to help out a little bit earlier, that might have evened things up a bit. So right now, you know, the Empire's down 2 artillery pieces, and we've taken very little damage in return. I've lost 1 great cannon, and let's just take a look at the batteries here. So 2 cannons down. 2 cannons down. The rest of the cannons are up still, but the crew is routed, and if they come back, I can just shoot them again. So Bolt Thrower now, again, same thing. It's in a 3v1 situation, so it's going to lose here. Flamespire Phoenix and Karl Franz are just looking for an opening here, but there's not a lot of space for them to land with all of these units here. I mean, you've got Summoners of Rage, you've got Demigryphs, more just regular Empire Knights, sorry. These are the Demis, and okay, so two Empire Knights, 1 Demi. So yeah, I mean, it's tricky for them to find a spot to land. They will satisfy themselves for now, the Flamespire Phoenix, by just doing some bombing runs in on these Chaos Marauders. The Chaos Marauders are lightly armored troops, so it's not a bad choice. And I just want to show you how much damage they can do when they get in some direct hits. Vippa, he's a good player. He notices that they are coming in, and he tries to you know, keep his units moving so that they aren't like direct hits. But watch this with 2 Flamespire Phoenix. He's going from 5,704 with 87 models. See? Is it here he drops it? Oh, can you reposition? Okay. Maybe it's the next run. Yeah, here we go. Bang. So that was a miss, but this double, so that one, 2 of them hit and it dropped basically in half, right? Two of those Flamespire Phoenix balls took it down from 5,700 to 3,315. So very, very effective use of the Flamespire on the Chaos Marauders. That was devastating. Some Overwatch fire going in here on on Karl Franz. I wasn't too sure how much value I'd get out of shooting the cannons at Karl Franz with him strafing, so I pretty much ignored him for now. The rally crew did come back and reman the Hammer of the Witches and the Great Cannon, but I noticed that and just basically kept them at bay with some additional cannonballs. So the artillery duel now heavily, I think, in our favor, but we've taken a little bit of damage, both from cannonballs, from Flamespire Phoenix Harass, so balance bar is still pretty even, if only slightly edging in our favor. So a little bit more jockeying for position here, trading of cannonballs. I'll just fast forward a bit. I do have a unit of crossbows in the back who are just providing overwatch to that front line. A couple charges come in here to disrupt the artillery crews, but those are chased off without too much problem. So give you the bigger picture view of the battlefield right now. Not a whole lot going on. Some spearmen coming up to the front, but it will start getting pretty crazy soon. And I hit the fast forward one more time. So Karl Franz gets a little bit greedy here, and this was a key moment in the battlefield. So Demigryph Knights are able to hit Karl Franz. He pops Stand Your Ground, so he has pretty high melee defense, but these Chaos Warhounds of Poison were really helpful for us because they have a poison debuff, so they slowed down Karl Franz's speed. If you notice, his speed here has dropped to 69, so he's having trouble getting away from these Demigryph Knights, who are not like trailblazers themselves, but they do have a speed of 75, and that's greater than the 65 speed of Karl Franz. So he's kind of stuck in the mud here and just kind of trotting along. He does have more mass, but because he's taking so much damage, I was able to bid out a little bit of magic here. So Karl Franz, he drops the regrowth, upgrade it, and a plague of rust. I cast Plague of Rust with Balthazar Gelt, but the regrowth came from the Jade Wizard right here. The Empire Captain has come in here too. He's got the Shield of Faith going up, I guess, to assist, any damage that could potentially come back in return. And the Hammer of Sigmar from the Warrior Priest is increasing the melee attack of these Demigryph Knights. So now they're up to 58 melee attack, and they're going to put a lot of damage in on poor old Karl Franz here, who now is down to 40 armor, and just having a rough go of it. I do want to highlight, Karl Franz he's a pretty tough guy himself. He's got a miss resistance of 15, physical resistance of 22, and a word save of 11. So he can take some punishment, especially if you support him with the right heals. And Alarielle is here as well. So she can pop some additional protection. So there goes the Shield of Thorns. So Shield of Thorns plus Regrowth is going to keep Karl Franz alive. But if you notice, like, he's approaching his healing cap already just off of that one play. So he's alive, he still has a lot of health, but his leadership is low, and he's basically used up his healing cap already right in the early parts of the fight. So with all of these high value units chasing after Karl Franz, Time Lord positions his archers here and just basically scares off all of these units here. I mean, maybe I could have stuck on Karl Franz there, but it was pretty risky, and both Vippa and I were aligned in that, you know what, let's not get greedy here, let's take that damage we put on Karl Franz as a positive and leave it at that. But balance bar is still very even, maybe slightly in our opponent's favor, so not entirely sure why that is, because I think, strategically I'm a little more comfortable with our position having secured the artillery advantage, but maybe these archers are putting in some pretty good hurt onto Gelt and the Demigryph Knights, but I do notice that, and I will pull them away as soon as those volleys do come off. So maybe Franz hasn't learned his lesson. He's going right back in there to disrupt things a bit more. The Alarielle and Reavers have positioned themselves on the flanks here, and we're a little bit wider. In terms of ammunition, we're at about half ammunition, so doing okay here. I'm going to just fast forward again a little bit here. So Franz catches some Chaos Marauders, just gives them a little love tap, but not too big of a concern. They're only about 350 gold. Alarielle and Reavers try and do the same thing, but they probably trade ineffectively with that. So Chaos Trolls, Summoners of Rage kind of chase them off. Karl Franz here, still looking for an opening, but not really the greatest. Meanwhile, the Hammer of the Witches, they're just firing in on whatever they can get. They softened up the archers a little bit. I mean, not a great target for their armor-piercing cannonball missiles, but I do switch on to the High Elf Mage and the White Lines of Trace, who do have higher armor, and it's a little bit more of a cost-effective target for me. I mean, maybe I should have been shooting at Karl Franz. I'm still not entirely sure about how accurate the cannonballs are at shooting at flying targets that are kind of kiting around. But so for now, I was playing it safe, and I think maybe if I were to do it again, I would have played that a little bit differently and taken a chance at firing a couple balls up there. The Demigryph Knights do get in range here. I'm not sure I noticed that at the time. Otherwise, I should have been shooting them instead. I think my cannonballs are still chasing after the White Lines of Trace. Oh yeah, no. So I do switch onto the demis, yeah, and they're going to take a bit of a pounding there. So that does shift the battle bar in our favor. I mean, Franz and the Flamespire Phoenix have been chasing around like the trolls and whatever else, but no serious damage there. The crossbowmen still taking pot shots on Franz, but they're not going to do very much damage with his high armor. Flamespire Phoenix sneaks into the back of one of the artillery pieces, but the artillery piece was already like essentially out of ammo, so at that point I didn't really care. They are looking for the last two artillery pieces, and I guess this little bit of ammo left on the Hell Cannon, but at this point, like, the artillery, they're not super relevant. There's just a little bit left. I do start shooting into some great swords here because I know there's going to be a frontline engagement soon, and I need to win that, or at least do what I can to sort of limit the numbers. The Demigryph Knights get caught out of position here by my demis essentially, and some spears come up to sort of counter the demis, but I'm able to pull away here. Now this is the big engagement right here. Like, this is the clusterfuck that everyone's been waiting for. We've got the mage on the chariot coming in here to support, and then 1, 2, 3 units of ours, Empire troops, 2 great swords, 1 Sigmar Sons. backed up by Chaos Trolls that are armored, and then the 2 units of Chaos Marauders. On the other side, we've got some Great Swords, and again, Sigmar's Sons, and they're going to be backed up shortly by Spearmen, White Lions. There's the Scions of Mathlons in the vicinity, so it's going to get pretty crazy in here. Reichland Runefang being popped by Karl Franz. Smart play by Justice there, just to use all of those buffs by Karl Franz to support that pocket, and also keep their leadership up, because he does have some really strong leadership tools to both increase the leadership of his own troops and decrease the leadership of opposing troops, which is very helpful, especially against the trolls, right? So here, this is, I think, maybe something that's overlooked with Karl Franz. I'm just going to show you here. Let me... Karl Franz, come on. There we go. Karl Franz. He's got this Blood Roar. -8 leadership, so that's everything around here, plus he causes terror. And then on the other hand, he's got Hold the Line, which is +4 leadership, and then Reichland Runefang, which is +8 leadership. So he's basically swinging the battle. 8 + 4, that's 12 leadership in favor of his own army, and then -8 leadership against the other army. Plus he has an encourage effect, so like his presence, even if he's not attacking, just being in this pocket is going to cause a lot of problems for other armies. He does also have standard what's it called, standard ground, yeah, so that's gonna also buff his leadership, the melee defense quite a bit. Alarielle too, she can provide a lot of defenses here. She does have the where is it, the Shield Stone of Aisha, presumably. No, maybe it didn't take it this time. Here it is, Shield Stone of Aisha. So 12% physical resist, so everything in this vicinity is getting 12% physical resist. Shield of Safri, every time the High Mage casts a spell, there's 11% damage resist. Plus you've got the Scions of Mathlon, who are they in here yet? They do make their way in here eventually, and they also debuff the damage. So yeah, here are the Scions of Mathlon. So they're not in there yet, but eventually they will come in there, and they provide a lot of protection for these units here. And yeah, the leadership debuff is going to play havoc with these armored Chaos Trolls. Right now they're high leadership, but yeah, it's going to get dicey quick. So Purple Son of Xeres goes down. I think it might have gone the wrong way or missed. It didn't look like it did too much damage there. I look at the Chaos Sorcerer of Death. Like, Purple Son of Xeres is a very strong spell, and it only got 1 kill. So I'm not entirely sure why that is. Maybe it was some magical protections or all of those damage reduction buffs that were there. But yeah, a little bit disappointing performance from that Purple Sun. Crossbowman just shooting in at the Flamespire Phoenix. It's still trying to wrap up these Hell Cannons, but they're both out of ammo now. So if I were the Flamespire Phoenix, I would probably just ignore these backline troops and start, maybe picking away at these Chaos Trolls, or trying to snipe out leadership. Like Gelt's pretty low. So yeah. So Alarielle drops a huge Star of Avalorn. So this is getting like pretty sketchy in here. Like, what originally was a good engagement, I think, for us, now we're getting wrapped up, and Chaos Marauders are not going to hold for the longest time. Like, once they start sustaining some damage, their leadership is going to drop. Prince Svigald the Magnificent is started to creep his way into the fight here. He's trying to intercept some White Lions of Trace. Archer Fire coming in here. So that's getting pretty scary. Flamespire Phoenix are off on the side. I think they will get engaged again soon. And it's just buff after buff after buff going down in that center pocket. So there's Earthblood. We just had the Star of Avalorn. You're going to see another Earthblood go down. So there's the Earthblood upgraded and regular Earthblood. Plus then we get the Apotheosis from the High Elf Mage is healing over here. Demigryph Knights get mucked up in some White Lions of Trace, so that's definitely not a place that they want to be. They were trying to sort of pin Karl Franz. The Empire Captain comes over here to try and take Franz out, but Franz isn't having that, and he wisely just ducks and dodges his way out of there. Empire Knights make their way into the Archers, but the Empire Knights have pretty crappy leadership, so despite their 110 armor and decent melee stats, they're going to break because they've sustained some damage. Over here we've got Shield of Thorns going down. And now the Scions of Mathlon are in here too, so they're also going to be reducing the damage. So this is just a really, really resilient pocket that's very hard for us to break. Franz has detected Gelt pretty low, and there's a little bit of dipsy doodling here that's going on. I notice Franz is kind of hovering over my lord, so I'm trying to run Gelt through the Spearmen, through the Empire Knights, doing whatever I can to keep him alive here. The Empire Captain has found his way onto a Flamespire Phoenix. That's a great target for him, so he's doing some serious work here. I've also positioned the Great Cannons who have been firing in on these Flamespire when they land. They are partially obstructed from these Chosen, so I think that's just maybe a lesson there to make sure that you're not blocking your own artillery's line of fire, but you know, there were a few cannons that could still shoot, and that looks like a last cannonball was able to pick that Flamespire out of the air. So maybe it's not so bad if you shoot cannonballs at flying targets after all. And I think if I were to do this again, I probably would have been sniping at Franz earlier in the fight. So I think that was a big mistake by me. But anyway, Empire Captain finds his way onto another Flamespire Phoenix, but as this is happening, Franz, he dives right in here. Gelt is wavering. He's really, really low on leadership, really, really low on health. Empire Knight, Dragon, Summoners of Rage, like everything is trying to just screen out Franz. Vippa was there just helping me out with that, trying to keep Balthazar Gelt alive. But it was going to be a tough situation for me here with everything wavering. And even though I do have him pretty close to the center of a unit here, Franz just dives down and bites the bullet essentially. He's like, you know what, I'm just going to take that. Meanwhile, over here, Prince Svigald the Magnificent has found his way into the center of the action. Like if this is a dance party, like he's going right into the middle of the dance floor right now, and you know, showing his moves to everyone else. All of his troops have left the building, but he doesn't seem to realize that this has happened. And if we start to count the number of units that are around Svigald, like let's just do this for fun. Watch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 units, enemy units, are now surrounding Svigald, and he has in support 9 Empire swordsmen. That's it. Plus there's archers shooting in at him, and he doesn't give a shit. He's just tanking it out like it's nobody's business. Franz has escaped from what I was hoping would have been his demise, but I have switched the cannons onto him because I had some success with the Flamespire Phoenix. Oh, sorry, no. The cannons are shooting at this center pocket right now. Try to do damage to all of these balled up infantry that are trying to take out Svigald. But Svigald has this auric armor which just pumps out like a ridiculous amount of heals. I don't even understand why. Empire Captain finds his way onto the other Flamespire Phoenix here. So that Flamespire Phoenix is also not in a good situation here. Franz is kind of too low to really do much at this point. I would have probably not even landed him, but he is trying to pop his buffs. Apotheosis goes into these archers here. I don't think that's a good use of Apotheosis, although maybe it was enough to break off these Empire Knights. They've been terrified by the presence of Franz and have just run off the board. Flamespire Phoenix is so low. This is a massive Purple Son of Xeres from the Chaos Sorcerer of Death, so maybe redeeming himself a bit here. This one catches 45 troops. Not super high value, but I mean, when you got everything balled up like that, I mean, you might as well use them. So yeah, cannon's still shooting into this ball around Svigald. Probably should have tried to snipe out the Flamespire Phoenix or Franz, but hindsight's 20/20, and you know, they're doing work. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world that I was shooting at those great swords in there. They got 86 and 183 kills so far and counting, so I'm okay with them, you know, taking out some great swords because I don't really have a lot of infantry troops to deal with them otherwise. And my cavalry are pretty tattered right now. I've got, you know, 12 Demigryph Knights, but very low leadership. Empire Knights also very low leadership. Empire Captain's pretty low. Franz comes in here with Alarielle. They're like, you know, enough is enough, Svigald. You got to get out of here. Svigald, who was obviously not very good at math class and couldn't count all of the units around him, realizes that, oh shit, like now maybe my time is up, but calm, cool, and collected, he decides to leave the party and make his way behind this unit of enemy spears. No, I don't know. He's just screwed. He's just running away. I don't know. But still, even though he's fleeing, he's hard to kill because he does have self heals, right? A rear charge from Empire Knights to try and break Svigald free is lackluster. They lose their nerve at the last second just before they're about to hit the lines. Balance bar is in our opponent's favor. Like, it's really, really sketchy. I've lost Balthazar Gelt. Svigald is about to rout off, but it's so close. Like, Franz is like, what's he sitting at now? 183 HP. Like, things are desperate for us, but they're desperate for the Empire too. And is that another purple sun coming down here? No, so this is a chain lightning. So the Summoners of Rage, they do have access to a bound spell that lets them drop that lightning attack. So that goes down, and cannonballs come in here, and they take out Karl Franz. So something I wish I did a long time ago, but they were able to make contact and finish off that last 183 health of Karl Franz. Suddenly the bounce bar creeping up a little bit more in our favor. The Archer backline is still essentially undisrupted, but they're starting to get a little light on ammo. And with the Empire leadership off the table, all of these greatswords are going to flee. Like, the greatswords are good in combat if they're fighting, and their leadership is high, but they're known as an infantry with low leadership, just like swordmasters and these other type of greatsword units like foot squires. So if they lose their leadership, they're gone. And the dragon, like the Summoners of Rage, are able to come in here, just kind of chase them off a little bit. I think eventually they will realize that Alarielle is exposed here, so they're going to shift onto her, which is absolutely the right decision. Alarielle, I mean, if she had been like free, excuse me, if she had been free, she probably could have chased Prince Svigald off of the map when he was fleeing, and that would have maybe turned the tides a little bit for the High Elves and Empire. But now that we've secured the leadership of Prince Svigald, who will continue to heal, and the leadership of the High Elves and Empire is off the field. Alarielle got punted from the Empire captain and the Summoners of Rage. Like, this fight's pretty much over. So I'm just going to fast forward now. Like, the Summoners of Rage go in here, smash up some archers, and yeah. We'll go to the final battle screen. All right, so from my army, you know, like, I was happy with Gelt. He dropped a couple of final transmutations onto that big pocket there, and I wanted like a lord that was pretty cheap. I knew that this was probably going to come down to an artillery duel, and just having the warrior priest on my side to help secure that artillery duel was very, very helpful for my army. And with 3 cannons, they were able to put in you know, a lot of work over the course of the battle. So really happy with their performance. Normally I hate artillery and I never bring it, but you know, I was like, we got to change it up a little bit and do something interesting for a change. I think the demigriffs were very helpful. They put a ton of hurt in on Karl Franz, and if I didn't have the demigriffs available, I would not have really had an answer to Karl Franz. Even though they didn't kill him, they did so much damage, and they baited out like a ton of winds of magic that I was happy that you know, I had them on my team. For Vippa, he took like kind of a meme lore. Like, no one takes Prince Svigald the Magnificent because there's just so many more valuable things that you can take. I think pretty much every other Chaos Lord is probably better than him. But you know, like, if he's used in the right environment, which is just tanking out like tons of infantry, I mean, if he distracts the opponent like he clearly did this game, then you get value out of him. Like, he doesn't need to win. He just needs to distract a lot of resources of the opposing army. And if I were the High Elf or Empire player in this match, like, essentially would have just ignored Prince Svigald, like, just like I try and do with Tyrion or any of these other lords that are really tanky, and just fight everything else except him. And if he's gonna, you know, be isolated and like walk around the map very slowly, then let him do that. Like, if he has no troops around him, then it doesn't even matter. For Time Lord, he got some value out of those Flamespire Phoenix. They dropped a couple bombs on those Chaos Marauders. The Archers, I think they also had their uses there. I think the Bolt Thrower is just, it can't really, it's a class below the cannon. So in an artillery duel, it's just not really viable. I probably would have cut them. And the light cav, I mean, they can be useful, but I don't think they bought him enough for utility in this particular matchup. I'm not really sure what they would have been used on, other than maybe hitting the artillery had that been exposed. But I think we did an okay job of protecting it for most of the game. But the heals were huge from Alarielle and the High Mage, and they kept that pocket fighting for a really long time, and eventually did win that center pocket for the High Elfin Empire army, is only because we were able to snipe the leadership at the end, like pick Karl Franz out of the air. That pocket, I think, eventually crumbled. So Justice, like, his greatswords performed pretty well. I think they could have been spread out a little bit more, but then again, having them balled up ensured that they took full advantage of the magic and the heals, right? And there were so many heals with the Jade Wizard plus the High Mage plus Alarielle. So yeah, it was a lot there. I think maybe High Mage plus Alarielle is maybe overkill, because you already have so much heals from Alarielle, and if you only take Apotheosis on the High Mage, like, it's too much heals, I think. And it's not like you get more Winds of Magic, right? So if Alarielle had the Winds of Magic, I mean, she could have just kept pumping up the heals. I don't think the High Mage was really needed there. You could have put a Noble on a Chariot instead, and maybe you would have gotten a little bit more killing power out of the Noble, or even just a Noble on the horse to maybe challenge those Empire Captains or the Warrior Priest or anything like that. So yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. It was a crazy fun fight. I got to use my protractor there. No, I'm kidding. I actually had to look up, like, what these old high school instruments were. I was gonna start talking about a compass, and I was like, what the? Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.